My father built Morrison Manufacturing from nothing. He started in a garage in 1985 and grew it into a precision parts company with 200 employees and $28 million in annual revenue. He was proud of what he'd built, proud enough to make sure I understood every aspect of the business from the time I was 16, working summers in the warehouse, then in accounting, then in sales, learning it from the ground up. When he remarried after my mother died, I was 23 and already working as his operations manager. Diane was nice enough at first, a widow with 3 daughters close to my age. Dad was lonely. I wanted him happy. I didn't object when he married her 6 months after they met. I should have objected when he hired her. Diane became the office manager, overseeing administrative functions, scheduling, and coordination between departments. A year later, he hired her oldest daughter, Lauren, as a sales manager, then Madison in marketing, then the youngest, Sophie, as an HR assistant. One by one, my father brought them into the company, gave them good salaries, and taught them the business. I told myself it was fine. They were family now. Family helps family. That's what Dad always said. But they didn't treat me like family. They treated me like competition. Lauren would undermine me in meetings, questioning my decisions in front of clients. Madison would forget to include me in email chains about marketing campaigns. Sophie would gossip about me to other employees, suggesting I only had my position because of nepotism, while she and her sisters had earned theirs. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Dad died 3 months ago, heart attack at his desk, quick and unexpected. He was 62. At the funeral, Diane cried appropriately. Her daughters looked somber. They all told stories about how wonderful he was, how much he meant to them. The will reading was 2 weeks after the funeral. Dad's attorney, Robert Morrison, no relation, despite the shared name, read through the document in his office conference room. The house went to Diane, along with a life insurance payout of $500,000. Some investments and savings were split between her and her daughters. Then Robert got to the business. Morrison Manufacturing, including all assets, intellectual property, client contracts, and real estate, I leave entirely to my daughter, Catherine Morrison, trusting her to continue the legacy I built and to lead the company with the same dedication she's shown for the past decade. The room went silent. Diane's face turned white, then red. Lauren actually stood up. "That can't be right," she said. "We work there. We've been working there for years. We should at least have shares." The business was never incorporated to include shareholders outside of Mr. Morrison himself, Robert explained calmly. Catherine has been listed as successor owner in his estate documents for 8 years. This shouldn't be a surprise. But it was, to them. They'd assumed Dad would split everything evenly, or that Diane would inherit the business. They'd never imagined I'd own the company outright, that I'd be their boss in every legal sense. I didn't say anything at the reading, just thanked Robert and left. For 2 months, I ran the company the way Dad had taught me. I made decisions, approved budgets, met with clients, and managed operations. Diane and her daughters continued in their positions. We were professional at work, distant at home. I'd moved out of Dad's house the week after he died, couldn't stand being there with him anymore, and got my own apartment closer to the factory. Then last Tuesday happened. I'd gone back to Dad's house, my childhood home, to pick up the last of my belongings, things I'd left behind when I moved out quickly. Photos, books, some clothes I wanted. Diane wasn't supposed to be there. She told me she'd be out that afternoon. She wasn't out, neither were her daughters. I walked into my old bedroom to find them going through my closet, not packing my things, destroying them. Lauren had scissors. She was cutting through one of my work blazers, a charcoal gray Armani I'd saved for months to buy, the one I wore to client meetings and presentations. Madison was tearing a silk blouse, literally ripping it down the middle. Sophie was pulling dresses off hangers and throwing them on the floor. "What are you doing?" I said, hearing the shock in my own voice. "Cleaning out trash," Diane said from behind me. Before I could turn, she grabbed my arms, pulling them back and holding me in place. She was stronger than she looked, or I was too surprised to fight effectively. She pushed me against the doorframe, her hands like clamps on my wrists. "You dress like trash anyway," Lauren said, cutting through another blazer. "Trying to look professional, trying to act like you're better than us. You're not better. You're just your father's favorite, and now you think you own everything." "I do own everything," I said quietly. "I own the company. I own your jobs. Let go of me." "You own nothing that matters," Madison said, shredding a dress I'd worn to Dad's funeral. You're just a girl playing business, wearing expensive clothes to pretend you're competent. I stopped struggling, stood very still, watched them destroy $8,000 worth of professional wardrobe, piece by piece. Suits I'd bought for board meetings, dresses I'd worn to industry conferences, the blazer Dad had given me when I made my first major sale. They were laughing, all of them. Diane held my arms while her daughters destroyed my clothes and laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. I didn't fight, didn't scream, just memorized every detail. The scissors in Lauren's hand, the way Madison's fingers tore through silk, Sophie filming it on her phone, recording the whole thing. Diane's grip on my wrists, hard enough to leave marks. When they finished, when my closet was full of shredded fabric and broken hangers, Diane let go. I walked out without saying anything, got in my car, bruises forming on my wrists, and drove straight to my attorney's office. I need to terminate 3 employees and evaluate a 4th, I told her. I need to make sure it's done legally properly so they can't sue, but I need them gone. Patricia Chen was my corporate attorney. She'd handled Dad's business legal work for 15 years. She listened while I explained what happened, showed her the photos I'd taken of my destroyed closet, the bruises on my wrists, and the video Sophie had immediately posted to Instagram before I reported it and had it taken down, but not before I saved a copy. This is assault and destruction of property, Patricia said. You could press criminal charges. I could, but I want them out of my company first. Can we terminate them? For cause? Absolutely. They assaulted the company owner and destroyed your property. Document everything. I'll work with your HR director to process the terminations. Do you have one? Sophie is the HR assistant. Obviously, she can't handle this. You'll need to bring in an outside HR consultant. I know someone. She can be there tomorrow, conduct the meetings, process everything properly. I called Margaret Williams that night. She was a former HR director who now did consulting for small companies, handling sensitive terminations and investigations. She agreed to come in the next morning. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake thinking about my father, about how he brought these women into his life and his company, trying to build a family after my mother died. How they'd taken advantage of his generosity. How they treated me like an obstacle instead of family. The next morning, I arrived at the office at 6 a.m., reviewed documentation with Margaret, showed her the evidence, photos, video, my medical documentation of the bruises. She reviewed the employee files, their positions, their job performance records. Lawrence had 3 complaints from clients about unprofessional behavior, Margaret noted. Madison missed 4 major deadlines last quarter. Sophie has documented attendance issues. Even without the assault, you'd have cause to terminate based on performance. I want them gone today. We can do that. At 9 a.m., Margaret called Diane into the conference room. I sat beside her, with Patricia on a video call as legal counsel. Diane walked in looking confident, like she was there to discuss a project. Please sit down, Margaret said. This is a termination meeting. Diane's expression shifted. Excuse me. We're terminating your employment effective immediately. Yesterday, you physically assaulted Catherine Morrison on her private property. You held her against her will while others destroyed her personal property. There's video evidence, photographic evidence, and medical documentation of bruising. That was a family matter. It has nothing to do with work. You assaulted the owner of this company. That's grounds for immediate termination. You violated the code of conduct, created a hostile work environment, and committed criminal battery. You're fired. You can't do this. I've worked here for 12 years. You can file for unemployment. It will be denied because you were terminated for cause. Sign here to acknowledge receipt of this termination letter. Diane signed with shaking hands. Security escorted her from the building. She wasn't allowed to return to her desk. Her personal items would be mailed to her. At 10 a.m. Lauren. Same process. Same evidence. Same outcome. She cried, pleaded, and threatened to sue. Patricia calmly explained that she had no case, that the evidence was overwhelming, and any attorney would advise her not to pursue action. At 11 a.m. Madison. She was angry instead of sad, yelling about wrongful termination, about how this was personal and vindictive. Margaret let her vent, then explained the performance documentation in her file, the missed deadlines, the client complaints, and how, even without the assault, her employment had been in jeopardy. At noon, Sophie, the youngest, the one who'd filmed the whole thing and posted it online, the one who laughed the hardest while my clothes were destroyed, she tried to apologize, Said she didn't know they'd go that far, that she'd just been going along with her family. You filmed it, I said, speaking for the first time since Diane's meeting. You recorded me being assaulted and my property being destroyed, and you posted it on social media for entertainment. You're fired. All four of them were gone by 1 p.m. Security had escorted each one out separately. Their computer access was revoked. Their company email addresses were disabled. Their final paychecks would be mailed within the legally required timeframe, minus the cost of any company property not returned. The office was buzzing by lunch. Everyone knew something had happened, saw the security escorts, the closed-door meetings. I sent a company-wide email at 2 p.m. Effective immediately, there have been personnel changes in management positions. Diane Morrison is no longer with the company. Lauren Morrison is no longer with the company. Madison Morrison is no longer with the company. Sophie Morrison is no longer with the company. These changes are permanent. I appreciate your continued dedication to Morrison Manufacturing. Professional, factual, no details, no drama. I promoted our assistant office manager to replace Diane. Promoted our top salesperson to replace Lauren. Hired a professional marketing director to replace Madison. Brought in a real HR professional to replace Sophie. The company didn't skip a beat. If anything, things ran smoother. The new people were qualified, experienced, and focused on work instead of family politics. Diane tried to call me 17 times that first week. I didn't answer. Lauren sent emails threatening legal action. Patricia sent her a response detailing the evidence we had and the criminal charges we could still file if she continued to harass me. Madison posted on social media about being wrongfully terminated. Several people who'd seen Sophie's video before it was taken down replied with screenshots, asking if this was about the assault. The post was deleted within an hour. Sophie tried to apologize through a mutual acquaintance, said she understood now that what they'd done was wrong, that she was sorry, that she hoped we could move past this as family. We weren't family. We'd never been family. They were people who married into my life, took advantage of my father's generosity, and then tried to destroy me when they didn't get what they felt entitled to. 3 months later, I'm still running Morrison Manufacturing. Revenue is up. Employee morale is up. We've landed 2 major new contracts. The board of advisors I established told me they were impressed by how I handled a difficult personnel situation with professionalism and clear documentation. Diane filed for unemployment. It was denied. She tried to appeal. It was denied again. She burned through most of her life insurance money on legal consultations, trying to find someone who'd take her case. No one would. Lauren found a job in sales at a smaller company but was let go after 3 months. Apparently, clients Googled her name and found information about her termination from our company. Word spreads in our industry. Madison moved to another state, trying to start fresh somewhere people didn't know her history. Sophie got a job in retail. Last I heard, she was still there, making $12 an hour instead of the $45,000 salary she'd had working for me. I replaced my entire wardrobe. Better pieces this time, more expensive. I earned them. I wear them to meetings where I make decisions about a company my father built and trusted me to run. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad about firing them, about destroying their careers, about the financial hardship they're facing. I think about Diane holding my arms while her daughters destroy my clothes. I think about them laughing. I think about Sophie filming it and posting it online like it was entertainment. Then I think about the company my father built, the 200 employees who depend on it for their livelihoods, the clients who trust us, the legacy I'm protecting. No, I don't feel bad. They assaulted me and destroyed my property because they thought I was weak. Because they thought owning the company didn't mean I'd actually use that power. Because they thought family meant I'd tolerate anything. I proved them wrong in the most professional way possible. Documentation, witnesses, legal process, HR protocols. Not revenge, just consequences. My father taught me how to run a business. He taught me how to make hard decisions, how to protect what matters, how to lead with both compassion and strength. He also taught me that sometimes the hardest decision is removing people who are toxic, even when they're family, especially when they're family. I learned that lesson well. Morrison Manufacturing is thriving. I'm thriving. And 4 people who thought they could destroy me learned exactly how much power I actually had. All it took was 1 meeting with HR.